was a privilege to be able to speak of Sage, and a privilege because she has been a bright light in my life ever since we first met. And I also want at this moment to say thank you to Jonas for making this possible. Many years ago, I happened to be out in Minnesota at Glendalough, which is the wonderful gathering place in the northern part of the state that our family used to have. It simply was farm and water and woods. And we would all gather there in the summer, or as many as we could. And on that particular summer, my brother John was going to bring the woman he had asked to marry him out to meet his parents. And naturally they were concerned. And my mother was already very agitated because from the little she'd learned about Sage, she didn't feel that Sage would really make a suitable match. And she went over quite a number of times the reasons why. And the first reason was that Sage had performed on Broadway at her what seemed a very tender age. She had danced in public. And in my mother's mind, that simply was not a suitable thing for any proper young lady to do. So that was point number one, which was really something of a scandal and also close to being a sin. And the second problem was that Sage had already been married and divorced, and it was the divorce, it was the first marriage, of course, but it was the divorce that particularly got my mother's attention because divorce to her clearly was a sin. Marriage was to be a commitment forever, and she felt that anyone who had been divorced was less likely to have a marriage which would be stable for a very long time. So Mother was upset. And the third reason that Sage was possibly a problem was that she was older than John, some years older. And Mother thought, well, this would be Sage's mother-in-law. That may not be a problem now, but it will be someday. So it was with quite a lot of trepidation as well as excitement that we greeted Sage. And I don't know that Sage ever knew just what her future mother-in-law was thinking, or to what extent. She must have sensed something, but to what extent she understood it, I don't know. Now, over time, of course, my mother's views softened, partly because culture changed, and what women were free to do or not do became somewhat enlarged. At the same time, Sage herself, to my mind, really was the force for the change in Mother's attitude, because Sage was so warm and open-hearted and honest and simple, so natural and loving that it was very hard not to respond to her in return. And gradually it was very clear that she and John were so obviously happy together that there couldn't be any doubt about the success of the marriage. measured in terms of happiness. And to anyone who saw them sing and dance together would know the laughter and the joy that they lived with. As time went by and I was growing older, I became very much aware that however old Sage was, she was older than I was, that she had far more energy. And I found myself, whenever I was with her, up beside her walking at 6:30 in the morning in Antigua or at the farm or wherever we were. And she was just striding along and commented once, "It's nothing special. I have an ancestor who walked across China." As we both aged, I felt Sage was becoming increasingly realistic about, if you will, the facts of life. And we would often talk about old age and illness, dying, and death. She was becoming more and more aware of change, of impermanence, of the fact that nothing lasts, nothing in this visible world. And she didn't talk about it in a tragic way or a melancholy way as much, not in a philosophical way either. It was her understanding was coming from her own experience, and she accepted it as a fact that death was the end of life as we know it. And just end comes. Knowing this, it seems to me that because she accepted that fact without thinking a lot about it, but wanting to talk about it, just accepted it, that being reminded of it threw her right, was one of the things that threw her right back into life itself. And just to be wholeheartedly here wherever she was, with whomever she was, just present. And that, I think, is the reason why she has so many, many friends. And that, I think, includes what I would like to say.